This is a quick demonstration of the Wi-Fi capabilities of the Canon XA20. It will also be applicable to the Canon XA25 and by and large applicable to the Canon HF-G30. Now the first thing you have to do before you do anything with the Wi-Fi is set the camcorder up with a password. So we go into the menus and the function menus and then scroll down to Wi-Fi, come along. And then the top one here, smartphone connection. It can be a smartphone, it can be a tablet computer, basically a device you're going to use to connect to the camcorder. And it tells you there what the camcorder's SSID is. That's its Wi-Fi name. It's the name you will see when browsing the local available Wi-Fi networks, and that's how the camcorder appears, as a Wi-Fi network. And it's called, as you can see, XA20V42_Canon 0C. And you need to set the password. So hit password protected and give it, I think it's an 8-character password. So for the sake of simplicity, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and press OK. And then you go down and port 80, well, that's the normal port, so that's fine. And that is that's the password set for the Wi-Fi. So the camcorder's Wi-Fi operates both when it's in recording mode, allowing you to control the camcorder from another device like a smartphone or a tablet, and also see what the camcorder is seeing. Now this can be very useful if, for example, you've put the camcorder in a remote location. Perhaps if, for example, you were filming a wedding, you might put the camcorder up at the back of the church. You still want to be able to control it, start, stop, zoom perhaps, see what it's doing. Great, you can now do that from your mobile phone or a tablet. There is a slight delay between what the camcorder is seeing and it appearing on your screen, but it's fairly short and it's certainly very usable for seeing that you've aligned a shot correctly and got all the settings, the exposure and the focus and so on and so forth all correct. So I've currently got my camcorder in record mode, and let's assume that I now want to control it by a smartphone or a tablet. So we need to firstly go into the Wi-Fi remote screen, which is at the bottom of these menus, Wi-Fi remote, and it only has two options, off and on. So we will now turn it on, and it tells us the camcorder's SSID again, that's the Wi-Fi name, we saw that before, and also gives you this URL, http://192.168.0.80. That is the web address that you will type into your smartphone's web browser or your tablet's web browser, and at that web address you will see the interface to the camcorder, as I will demonstrate in a moment. So we've switched that on, go back to the main screen, and you know it's now working because there's this little yellow Wi-Fi in the corner of the screen. The camcorder has now switched itself into being a little Wi-Fi hotspot that your tablet, smartphone, whatever, can now connect to and see using a web browser. So let's see what that looks like now on the smartphone. So here is a smartphone, it's an Apple iPhone, and there are two stages to making it see the camcorder. First of all, you have to connect the smartphone's Wi-Fi to the camcorder, just as if it were any other Wi-Fi access point, and then having done that, you can open up the browser and navigate to the web address, that 192.168.0.80 address, that is actually the little mini web server built into the camcorder. So on an iPhone, we go into settings and Wi-Fi, and it will give us a list of networks, and you can see that XA8D42_Canon 0C is available as a network. So I'll select that one, and I'm not sure if it's going to ask me for the password again, because in fact I've done this before with the same password, so it's remembered that, and you can see by the little tick next to the name that the smartphone has now connected to the Wi-Fi of the camcorder, and we can minimize that screen. So now when we go to a web browser on the iPhone, it's Safari, there's a blank page, and we can type into the address bar here, and it's these numbers 192, and in fact you can see it's remembered it from before, 192.168.0.80, so I'll go with that. And it brings up a web interface to the camcorder. There are two versions of this interface. There's the basic one, which you're looking at now, and there is also an advanced one which has even more controls on it. So I'll just scroll that up a little so you can actually see it a little better. You see here, I hope you can make this out, it says advanced control. If we press on that, we'll see the advanced version, and then basic control. This area here is actually a viewing area that will show you what the camcorder is seeing. And then underneath we've got controls here for the zoom, wide to zoomed, and we have a start-stop button. Also here, the live view switch. If I press the live view button, not sure I pressed that, let's try that again. And there you can see on the screen of the smartphone now is the image of what the camcorder is seeing. It's nothing very exciting, it's staring at my sound mixer and the bottom of one of my monitors, but nonetheless what you're seeing on the smartphone is what is being ready to be recorded by the camcorder. And if I were now to press that big enticing start-stop button, you can see it's lit up in red, and it's not the smartphone that's doing the recording, it has instructed the camcorder to go into record mode, which you can see by looking back over at the camcorder's screen. The little red light is on, the timecode's running, and the camcorder is recording because I told it to from the smartphone. Now just to show you that slight lag, I'm just going to move the camcorder a little bit, just jiggle it around, and you should have seen that move on the smartphone. But it's perfectly usable and means that, as I said, in remote locations, or even if you're just sitting to the right-hand side of the camcorder doing an interview where the interviewee is looking screen left to screen right, and you're sitting on the right and you can't see the camcorder's own screen, well, you can monitor on your smartphone. So that is quite handy if you are self-shooting just on your own with no one else to help you and operate the camera. Quite handy to be able to see what the camera's up to wherever you are. I'm going to stop that recording now. And give it a second and it stops recording. I'll briefly switch into the advanced controls. This one's very simple. As you can see, you can just do the zoom and the live view. If you go into the advanced controls, you get the options to adjust the iris and the focus and everything else. So I'll just press that. It loads up the advanced control page, and I'll turn the phone around for this, I think. Scroll it up a bit. Hopefully you can see that. Let's just zoom in a tad more. There we go. So once again we've got the live view on the left. With some controls, I'll switch the live view on. There it is. I'll just scroll the screen up a little more actually. And underneath here we've got that start stop record button here. We've got zoom controls, we've got focus controls, and we've got iris plus and minus. Or you can adjust some of those from these buttons on the right. So for example, if I click on that one which says F4, it brings up on the right a list of f-stop settings. So if I change it to f1.8, you can see the image has got noticeably brighter. You can also adjust the shutter. I never advise adjusting the shutter away from 1/50th, but you can if you really want to. I'll go back to 1/50th. And pressing the M button means you can switch into any of the pre-programmed auto exposure modes. I'll leave it in manual. And just here, tiny little button there, that was the manual focus. So in pressing that, it's gone into autofocus, and it's also taken away the buttons here which we could have used for focus. If I press it again, we're back to manual focus. I mean, these are so tiny actually on a smartphone, it's incredibly difficult to use them, but on a tablet, perfectly feasible. And there you go, that's it. That is operating your Canon XA20 from a remote browser.